What you're looking at is the key to mastering LumaLabs AI video generation platform. I've meticulously analyzed over 500 different prompts to unlock the secrets of creating high fidelity and dynamic motion in each one of your renders. But here's the kicker. The trick to prompting LumaLabs correctly may not be what you think. Let's cover a few quick details. If you haven't heard, LumaLabs is a new incredible generative AI video platform that just released to the public. It came out of seemingly nowhere to dunk on the competition. Check out this post from Angry Tom pitting the top 3 players against one another. Not only is Luma able to add more motion to the scenes, it can generate 5 seconds compared to the 3 and 4 seconds of Runway and Pico. So what's the secret to getting the most out of this magical software? Before I show you my findings, let's quickly cover what I was grading in each of these generations. To start, I recorded the prompt that I used, whether I used enhance on or off within the generation, whether an image was included along with the prompt, and then once I generate that video, I would save it and review it at a later point. In my review, I would examine the video for 3 different marks. The first was fidelity. On a scale from 1 to 4, I rated whether the image maintained its fidelity. For example, a 1 would mean the generation was basically unusable. A 2 had a few errors, but overall decent. A 3 was great, but maybe a small error or 2. Nothing too bad. And 4 was nearly flawless. Next, I graded the level of motion. A 1 meant basically nothing moved at all. A 2 meant there was some movement, but nothing overly impressive. 3 meant there was a level of dynamic motion to the scene that would be tough to reproduce anywhere else. 4 meant the movement was incredible. Finally, the last mark was whether the generation was usable or not. I would play back each one of the clips, and if I thought I could use it in a project, I would give it a 1. If there was just too much wrong with it and I don't think it could have been saved, I'd give it a 0. In some cases, 50 to 70% of the video was great and may require some light editing, so in those cases, I would give it half credit. Finally, to compare each one of these generations, I would average the fidelity and motion scores, and then add on the usability to that to get a score out of 5. This allowed me to quickly and easily compare a whole bunch of prompts and understand what is working and what's not. So let's get into some of my findings. Let's start with fidelity. You'll notice the numbers display enhanced off on the left and enhanced on the right, along with whether I used an image or not. You'll notice that with enhanced off and no reference image, we achieved an average of 1.74 out of 4 for fidelity. With a reference image, we achieved a score of 2.42 out of 4, so much better when including an image. Now what about with enhanced on? You'll notice that when enhance is turned on, whether you're using an image or not, we lose some of the fidelity of the scene. Let's dive into this a little bit deeper. On average, if you're attempting to reproduce a realistic scene, having enhance off may be the best route. Having enhance off seems to do a better job at maintaining the fidelity of the generation, meaning we're not experiencing random artifacts and oddities throughout the generation. Now, that brings us to motion. You'll notice the opposite is actually true when it comes to adding dynamic motion to your scene. On average, having enhance on will ensure better movement in your generations. This is especially useful when working with abstract pieces of art where prompting becomes difficult to articulate well and the overall fidelity has some lenience. So to recap, when fidelity is most important for your scene, meaning you can't have extra fingers or toes or anything, turning enhance off may be the right option for you. Whereas if dynamic motion is most important to you, then leave enhance on. However, treat these more as guidelines rather than hard and fast rules. Now when we start to get to more advanced scenes where there's multiple subjects, multiple objects, or multiple things that need to move within a scene, enhance really starts to struggle with a lot of that. In many instances, it would just do nothing. It would just freeze up. In other instances, it would ignore half the prompt and only take on a portion of it. Now this doesn't happen every time, but if you do have enhance off and you're just getting nothing back, just go ahead and flip it on and give it another try. Now let's move into prompting. Crafting effective prompts is crucial, especially when you're not using a reference image. You want to aim for a Goldilocks prompt, not too detailed and not too vague. Overly complex prompts can overwhelm the system, while too little detail leaves room for misinterpretation. When in doubt, I would always lean towards the side of simplicity. Another interesting thing I found during my experimentation is that the subject matters a whole lot. Common subjects such as cats, teddy bears, or humans allow for more complex prompts. My theory is that there's a lot of training data behind these, and so it has a lot to draw on. Whereas fantasy creatures like monsters, werewolves, and yetis will need a simpler prompt. Now, I have been surprised more than a few times. You're not always going to know how far you can push the prompt with a subject, so you're just going to need to do a few trial runs. Start with a more complex prompt in the beginning, and then begin to pull back if the platform seems to have trouble understanding the prompt. But to be honest, some of the best outputs I had were some of the laziest prompts. If you're looking for a place to start, I'd recommend creating your own prompt engine. Here's how. First, click the Learn More at the top of the platform. This will bring you to their prompt guide. Scroll down and click on Advanced Techniques in the table of contents. There you'll see a list of commonly used terms. Go into each one and copy and paste the contents into a Google Doc. Then head over to Claude AI. Provide Claude with a simple prompt about how you want it to create prompts for an AI-generated video platform, along with an example prompt, which you can get straight from the platform. Congratulations, you now have your own prompt machine. If you need inspiration, you can ask it for a list of ideas, or if you have something specific in mind, ask it for a few prompts on a subject. Just remember, don't fall in love with any of the prompts. Sometimes they just won't work. In those cases, rework them until they do. Or you can just add an image, which I highly recommend. When comparing a text prompt to a prompt plus an image, the generation is almost always going to be better. The only exceptions that I've found have been when drone shots, where the text to video actually does incredibly well. To use images, just simply use your favorite image generation platform to generate an amazing image, combine it with your prompt machine, and you're in business. Fair warning though, some images just will not work. I wasted over 40 generations trying to get this to work. It's just sometimes you just need to go with a different image. Or if you're really steadfast on getting it to work, sometimes the answer is to add an end frame. So after adding your image, you may have noticed an optional end frame. This allows you to add a start and end image, which Luma uses to interpolate the frames in between. This works well when you need a very specific motion or you want to create some amazing transformation effects that would be impossible to achieve otherwise. X has been having a ton of fun using these keyframes to produce incredible generations. In my experience, most of my successes with this method have come from letting Luma do its own thing. I typically give a simple prompt or no prompt at all. What's interesting is that you can add no prompt with both enhance on and off to choose between more motion or fidelity. Regardless, with enough determination and persistence, I've found you can get most things to work eventually. That's all I got for today. I hope y'all enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one.